Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're wrestling with a question that it really sits underneath almost every conflict humanity has ever had.
That's a big one.
A huge one. We've got a stack of sources here that are trying to synthesize philosophy, economics, history, all to answer this one thing. What is the true value of a human being?
It really is the ultimate ethical challenge. And what's so interesting about the material you shared is how it sets this up. It's not just an essay. It's like a debate across history.
Exactly. It's like we're hearing from Abraham Lincoln and Mother Teresa on one side, making this case for inherent worth.
Right.
And then, boom, that's immediately challenged by this conditional worldview, the one embodied by figures like Hitler. Then just when you think it's getting too philosophical,
Here comes Warren Buffett with the numbers.
and the cold, hard data of science. It's this wild structure. So our mission today is to take these completely different frameworks, spiritual, economic, political, and try to define for you whether human worth is something fixed, something you're born with.
Or if it's conditional, based
Right.
on what you do, what you produce. Or maybe it's just determined by, external forces, sometimes violent ones.
Yeah, the core conflict, right out of the gate, it just boils down to a choice. Is your value set the moment you're born? Or can it be measured and manipulated or even erased based on things like money or race or just pure power?
To even start to unpack that, we have to look at the extremes. We have to set the ethical perimeter. What are the absolute limits of both the conditional and the inherent view?
Okay, let's start with the darkest end of it, the conditional argument. The idea of state utility.
Mm-hmm.
The sources are pretty clear here. In this view, a person's value it's completely tied to their contribution to the collective. In some historical cases, that meant the strength and purity of the nation.
And the logic, which is what's so chilling about it, is terrifyingly simple. If life's value is conditional, then what happens if a person stops benefiting the collective?
Yeah, they have no value.
They become a liability. And the material uses this, it's truly horrific language. It compares removing that person to taking out the garbage.
Wow, that language just stops you in your tracks. It shows how easily worth can be just thrown away when the main principle is utility and not dignity.
Exactly. It's a blueprint for total devaluation. But the sources don't stay there. They pivot immediately to the counterargument, to Lincoln.
Right, the inherent foundation. Lincoln's whole argument is built on the Declaration of Independence. The idea that value isn't granted by a government. It's inherent, endowed by a creator.
And that's a key point, because you might hear a creator and think, okay, so is it conditional on being religious?
Yeah, that's a good question.
But the way the material interprets Lincoln, the reference to a creator, is about establishing the source of the value. It's external to any human government, which makes it supreme, universal.
So it's not negotiable. The government's job isn't to give you rights. It's to protect the value that's already there.
Precisely. When Lincoln rejected the idea of a superior race, it wasn't just, a political speech. He saw it as a dangerous falsehood, something that would just completely unravel society's moral contract.
Because once you say some lives are worth more than others,
It all falls apart.
and then we shift gears completely away from law, away from politics, and we get the unconditional foundation from someone like Mother Teresa.
Yeah, her view just transcends all of that. For her, every single life is precious. It has infinite worth. And not because of what they might do or what they might build.
But just because they exist.
Like, because they exist. She completely cuts the link between a person's worth and any human measurement. For her, the only metric is love and compassion,
It's an absolute.
a spiritual absolute. It's the direct opposite of that utility model. So, okay, now we have the boundaries, right? Conditional value versus inherent value. The question becomes, how does our modern world try to measure this unmeasurable thing? And why do we keep failing at it?
And that takes us right into the money, the economic lens.
Yeah.
This is where we bring in Warren Buffett. His initial view, like a lot of the capitalist world, it defines value through what they call human capital.
Right. Your ability to produce, to innovate, to contribute to economic growth.
In a cold business calculation, that makes sense. You invest in people, productivity goes up, wealth goes up. But you raised the key question earlier. What happens when you stop producing? When you retire or get sick? Does your value just
drop to zero? Exactly. And that forces you to confront the materialism trap. If that's the only measure, then a patient in a hospice bed has no value. And we all know on a human level, that's just not true.
It's fundamentally wrong.
And this is where the sources point to this profound shift, this crucial synthesis from Buffett himself. He realized that, and I'm quoting, pure economic wealth cannot be the measure of intrinsic worth.
That's a staggering thing to hear from one of the greatest architects of material wealth in history. So what did he say the new metric was? What replaced it for him?
Love, compassion, the relationships he built. The material suggests he realized that economic numbers only count transactions. They don't count the things that actually matter, like character, integrity, our shared humanity.
So if the high priest of capitalism himself says this, why is society still so fiercely trapped in that materialistic measurement?
That just shows you how powerful the default is. And we'll dig into that trap in a second. But first, let's look at it through the scientific lens. This is where Dr. Ari Thorne comes in.
Right. In science, it just highlights how impossible it is to replicate a human being. Thorne's point is that no two humans are genetically identical. Each of us is the product of billions of years of evolution. We are scientifically unique.
And that uniqueness, it suggests a kind of inherent rarity. But science has its limits. Dr. Thorne is very clear about this. Science can describe the complexity, and analyze the chemical compounds, but it cannot assign worth.
That has to come from philosophy?
Yeah.
From ethics.
Which throws us right back to that inherent worth argument from Lincoln and Mother Teresa. And the sources boil all down to one unifying moral question, and it's aimed right at you, the listener.
The question is, isn't a homeless human on the street just as valuable as a billionaire on Wall Street?
And the answer from Lincoln, from Mother Teresa, from Rabbi David and the sources is a resounding absolute yes. Your economic status, your background, it's all irrelevant to your intrinsic worth. Mother Teresa called the homeless the face of Jesus, priceless, sacred.
So if we accept this, that every life is priceless, and it's a truth that seems to be backed up by philosophy, spirituality, even the self-critique from major economic players, why does our society seem to actively work to devalue it?
That's the crisis, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's where we are now. The sources shift from the ideal to the really sobering reality of what devaluation looks like. And the stats, they paint a pretty grim picture.
They really do. In 2021, you had 828 million people experiencing chronic hunger. Here in the U.S., it was about 37.9 million people in poverty in 2022.
And just look at how we financialize life itself. The cost of just existing keeps going up. The sources show that raising a child to college graduation for a middle-income family costs about $1.1 million.
$1 million. Meanwhile, a single ticket to go to space is around $100 million.
It's an absurd comparison, but it highlights the problem. It costs a fortune to raise a human on Earth, but we'll spend orders of magnitude more for an hour outside of it. Which leads to that question the sources pose to you.
What price tag would you give yourself?
Impossible to answer.
And they immediately compare that to a piece of art. Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi, it sold for $450.3 million. And the point isn't to make you feel bad, it's just to show how easily we assign huge, non-negotiable value to objects.
Well, we struggle to afford basic dignity for people. And that leads straight into the mechanism of this whole thing, the materialism trap. We become, as the sources put it, slaves to money. We forget that it only has power because we all agree it does.
Yeah, this is the big lie that's pushed by those snake eyes investors who profit from debt. They sell this fantasy that real happiness is just the next purchase.
And the cost of that debt is paid in family time. That's a key metric of a healthy society. People working multiple jobs just to pay for things. The data shows mothers spend maybe 2 hours a day with their kids, fathers 1.5.
And that has real consequences.
Yeah.
Kids feel neglected. That constant pressure to pay the bills overshadows any emotional connection. And you see them lose respect for their parents and then, for society itself.
And this devaluation isn't just economic, it's historical, it's ideological. Yeah. I mean, the sources remind us of the horrific costs. Hitler killing 6 million Jews, the Civil War, maybe 750,000 deaths, the atomic bombs in Japan, 100,000 casualties.
All instances where human life was just a number on a balance sheet for some political goal.
Right. And Mother Teresa, in her Nobel speech, she brought that devaluation right into the modern day. She said the greatest destroyer of peace is the cry of the unborn child, pointing to the 73 million induced abortions worldwide each year. The sources use that to highlight her argument that sacrificing life for convenience is the ultimate sign of a society that has lost its compassion.
And looking forward, now we have technology, AI, robots replacing jobs, which could crater the economic value of a person's labor.
And the deeper fear, right? Technological enslavement, chips, tracking, a total loss of privacy. It feels like all these forces, greed, technology, politics, are just in a constant state of attacking that inherent value we started with.
Okay, so with all that in mind, the greed, the history, the tech, where do we go from here? What's the ethical choice? What is the duty of our leaders in all this?
Well, the sources give us an answer from Thomas Jefferson. He said, "The care of human life and happiness, and not their destruction, is the first and only object of good government."
The first and only object. Yet you look at our political reality. Leadership is often built on enormous wealth. A presidential campaign can cost over $1 billion.
Which means leaders are often, as the sources say, bought and sold to self-interest groups. They aren't accountable to human values. They're accountable to their donors.
It's a total betrayal of that duty of care.
It is. The core principle for a moral society, the one that comes from that inherent value argument, is simple. The strong should help the weak become strong.
And that's the polar opposite of the conditional view, where compassion for the weak is just seen as a weakness, a cost. But here, compassion is redefined as the ultimate strength.
It even redefines freedom. There's a Nelson Mandela quote in here. To be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedoms of others.
So freedom isn't about dominance, it's a shared social responsibility. My freedom is tied to your ability to live with dignity.
Exactly. And that shared responsibility, it leads us to the final, unavoidable conclusion in the sources, the ultimate test.
Which is that? The person you see in the mirror will decide the value of human life.
That's it. Value isn't just something you're given at birth. It's an active, daily choice. It's a choice you make in how you treat yourself and how you treat every single person you meet.
So when you pull it all together, the science, the Constitution, the spiritual mandate, and even that economic self-critique from Buffett, the conclusion is so consistent. Every single human life is priceless.
Right. True value comes from character, compassion, and moral choice, not a bank balance. And we look at figures like Lincoln, Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa. They brought value to humanity because they chose to prioritize the dignity of others, often at huge personal cost.
The sources say, the decisions you choose to value will be your game changer in life. So if we agree that we decide the value of life in that moment, looking in the mirror, then we have to ask you, what values and actions are you choosing every single day to reflect that inherent worth? Are your choices, are they still conditional?
That is the ultimate challenge. How do you live your life to affirm that the person next to you is also priceless? We shall overcome as a human race.